Taiwanese pastors to a homeless shelter for U.S. veterans in Asheville, North Carolina. And I asked our Taiwanese pastors to wash the feet of these homeless men. And one of these homeless men said to me, the last time I was with Asians, I was in Vietnam shooting at them. And now an Asian is kneeling in the name of Jesus and washing my feet. And he started to weep. Well, I started to weep. It's times like this where we see the kingdom of God. And that's a privilege. Now, I took this picture. This is Easter Sunday. Now, this looks like an American church on Easter Sunday, full, right? See I'm preaching here. Well, the Sunday after Easter, I was at Taiping Jing Church in Tainan. This is the Sunday after Easter, equally full. Taiwanese don't have Easter and Christmas crowds. 95% of the Presbyterian Church is in worship on Sunday. Right, Jim Musha? Yeah, we don't have these big dips like we do in the American church. If you're Christian, you go to church. The children are wonderful, like they are here. And this is a retreat that I led for pastors, and they're washing the feet of their youth. And I love working with the youth of Taiwan. They have the same battles with praise music and traditional worship that we have. The problem, not only do they have music wars, they have language wars. Because a lot of the older people speak the mother tongue of Taiwanese, Hakka, or the Aboriginal tongue. A lot of these young people speak Mandarin. So how do you blend everybody in? It's not easy. This was funny. On a certain Saturday, I was in Zhanghua, and they have a sister church with the Bunun tribe. The Bunun are short, but their legs are like tree trunks. They are the best basketball players because they can jump. Well, I'm preaching, and this group basketball team comes in the back, and I couldn't see from the back what they had on. Well, after the service, they came up and talked to me, and they all had on a different NBA jersey. And not only did they have a different NBA jersey, they all had on a different player. And I borrowed his Kobe Bryant's jersey. But this is Jeremy Lin Shuhao, who is a Christian, and he's playing for the Knicks, and now he's with the Houston Rockets. He goes back to Taiwan, leads basketball clinics, and shares his faith. And it's so wonderful that this young man, Harvard graduate, is this wonderful witness to Christ. If he was born here, but he goes back to Taiwan to share his faith. There's the mountain pig. That's really a regular pig. That's not the mountain pig. What we're trying to do in the Aboriginal villages, because they're moving out of the villages to the city, is help them find sustainable agriculture in the villages. And these are coffee beans. In a country that's really a tea country, coffee's taking off. So we're helping the Aboriginals to grow coffee so it doesn't have to be imported from Indonesia or somewhere else. I love this picture. This is the Aboriginals, the grandmother showing the ancient art of weaving and the young man doing the hunting. And the intergenerational nature. And that's what I think the church has that very few other institutions have. And I don't want us to lose being together. It's nice we have young people here tonight and not just adults. But that's part of who we are as a church, is being together as a family. This is an Aboriginal family. He's an elder in his church. His wife is a wonderful person. They love the Lord, and these 3 boys love the Lord. Now, a lot of the Taiwanese are dyeing their hair red. As I mentioned, we go to a place in France called Taizé. You may have sung Taizé songs. Taizé is this wonderful place in Burgundy where they have 3,000 to 5,000 teenagers a week who come and worship 3 times a day, who do Bible study, who eat together and work together. And I've taken 5 groups of Taiwanese young people. This kid had almost no English. One day I was waiting in line for lunch. A German girl turned around and she said, "Are you the leader of the Taiwanese group?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "We love that Taiwanese friend maker." The kid had no English. He had about 200 to 300 European friends. And what I do is I take these cards and a brush pen and we give all the Westerners Mandarin names. So he's Andrew Andelier. So that's the way to build a bridge between our Taiwanese young people and these European young people. And the Taiwanese do a great job of sharing their faith at Taizé. Here's some German kids with our Taiwanese kids. Now, in addition to my work in Taiwan, I also work in a number of Asian countries. I fly, and this is in the Philippines. This is kids from Mindanao, a Muslim island, and they had just won 2nd place in their national soccer championship. But I just love the life of kids, the life that they bring. This was in a park. I don't have the video in this, but in the morning, I left my place where I was staying before our meetings, and I walked to this park, and these kids had just finished sweeping the park. So I said to them, would you like to learn a song in Mandarin? So I taught them the song, We Love, Because God First Loved Us, Woman, I, I, woman. So I had them singing in Mandarin, English, their mother tongue of Tagalog, Spanish, and French. I didn't even know them. They just started, had a whole choir there in the park. This was a wonderful experience. Last September, I was teaching in Malaysia, and we stayed in this hotel. Hotel was a little generous. It was more like a guest house. But next door to the hotel was a barbecue restaurant. So every night, after I came home from the church where I was lecturing, I would stop and just have tea with these three young men who had to leave their countries to find a job in Malaysia. He is from Myanmar. He's a Buddhist. He's from Nepal. He's a Hindu. And he's from Indonesia. He's a Muslim. So every night, these kids are all 18. He grew up with 9 brothers and sisters, 3 in a bed growing up. When he left Indonesia to go to Malaysia, his parents stood at the airport and just wept that their oldest son had to go to another country to find work. So every night I drink tea with them. I got to know them. So my last night, Tuesday night, I said, tomorrow I'm flying back to Taiwan. And they said, oh, tomorrow's our day off. We'll come and send you off. So they dressed, these are their work clothes, they dressed in their best clothes, and they came one song to send me off. So I said to them, I wanted to bless them, but I knew they weren't Christians. I said, I want to bless you. So I said, you guys know I'm a Christian. They said, well, we know you're a pastor. You've been speaking at the church in town. So I offered a prayer, and then what do we sing? We love because God first loved us. But world peace, the secret to world peace isn't drinking tea, but I think it starts with that. Sitting down together with people of different backgrounds and religions and getting to know each other as friends. This was the church I was teaching at in Malaysia. Now this is in China. This is in Jiangsu province. And the Chinese church right now is exploding. Their pastors cannot keep up with the seekers who are coming to church. So part of what I do is go and lead retreats for Chinese pastors. I'll be teaching at a 2-week course at a seminary in Jiangsu province next January. But it's amazing to see how the communism and materialism isn't filling their hearts. Only the gospel is going to fill their hearts. Here's a children's choir. And this is Immanueli. It means Emmanuel. And during the Cultural Revolution, when Christianity was outlawed, Chinese Christians would see another Christian, they would say to another Christian, Emmanuel, God with you. And that was the symbol. The government didn't understand it, but now almost every sanctuary in China has this on the front of their sanctuary to remind them that God is still with them. Here I am with 4 Chinese pastors. They're pastoring churches of 4,000 to 5,000 members. They're running fast, trying to keep up with it all. Now this is fascinating. These are Taiwanese who studied in North Carolina, at Duke, North Carolina State, or University of North Carolina. They all got PhDs or MBAs, mostly science. And there's a Taiwanese-American couple, the guy with the persimmon tree, who invites them to their home every Thursday night for a Taiwanese meal and then a Bible study. And in the past 8 years, about 30 of these Taiwanese students have been baptized. They go back to Taiwan and are first-generation Christians. And I tell you, there's nothing better than a first-generation Christian. They're on fire. They have to talk about their faith because they've been changed like Zacchaeus. This was a couple when I was in Greensboro. He's a doctor. He was at Duke Hospital. She was at Duke Law School. He was doing rounds but couldn't understand the rural North Carolina accent. So he'd go into the ward and he'd say, sir, what's wrong? And the man would say, my knee's kind of, what's knee? I don't know about this knee. Just here, I don't know about this knee. So he came to my house and he said, John, I can't understand these people. He said, I'm afraid I'm misdiagnosing all these people. I said, well, just be patient, you will. So 6 months later, he said, I finally have gotten the rural North Carolina accent. This is Linda Valentine, who's the head of our Presbyterian Mission Agency. She came to Taiwan with a number of other leaders, and she's speaking, I'm interpreting for her, to the General Assembly staff of the Presbyterian Church in Taiwan. So why am I in Taiwan? Well, the first reason I'm in Taiwan is to share the living water, to let the Taiwanese drink deeply. of the gift that Jesus offers. And the second reason I'm in Taiwan is to help develop leaders, nurture leaders who allow the church to grow deep, with roots deep in the Taiwanese soil. So it's an indigenous faith. It's a faith that stands strong in the face of great challenges. But also a church that's wide, that's inclusive of all the people groups in Taiwan. Whether it be Aboriginal, Hakka, those who came 400, 500 years ago, or those who came 60 years ago. But to reach out to the people of that land. So it's really a wonderful privilege to be able to do what I do. I forget that I don't look Taiwanese. You know, every morning when I wake up, I look at Taiwanese. I don't look at myself. And I've really come to love the people of that land. And I'm thrilled that we have people of that land here with us tonight, right here in Baldwin. Okay, 5 minutes for questions, then we'll let you go. Any questions anybody has? No questions? Okay, there's one, yeah. Yeah, how many languages do I speak? I speak Mandarin and English, and I speak a little bit of French. I took high school French. When I take these groups to France, I'm the interpreter from French to Mandarin. That's dangerous. But what I do, you know, Taiwanese are very innocent. Taipei and the cities in Taiwan are very safe. So I take these Taiwanese innocent young people to the Paris subway where there are pickpockets everywhere. So what I do, I speak in Mandarin in a French country. It's great. I say, suspicious person to your right, look to your left, watch your wallets. So one day I was speaking Mandarin and there was a lady from China on the subway. Well, she was so curious. Who is this white guy speaking Mandarin to all these Taiwanese? She couldn't stand it. She was going. So finally she said, who are you? 你是谁? I said, I'm the leader of this group. And I speak a very little bit of, most of these folks worship in Taiwanese, which is different from Mandarin, which is their mother tongue. And I can understand a little bit of Taiwanese. I taught preaching, and I had students with 15 different languages. And my requirement was they would preach in Taiwanese, Aboriginal, or Hakka. I would read the Mandarin sermon, and then I'd have a pastor from that group come in and grade their language. Any other questions?
Dr. McCall, I know you're busy. Do you have any spare time or any opportunity you can come over to our church? Even just show the slides to our kids. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm preaching here twice tomorrow, and then I go back on Monday to continue for the next 7 months. I'm booked every week for the next 7 months. So, but in 4 years, put me on the schedule, Pastor G. I'd love to come back. I'll spend a whole week from Sunday to Sunday. One Sunday at St. Mark and one Sunday at your church. Any other questions? Yeah.
How did you end up in Taiwan versus some other country?
Yeah, how did I end up in Taiwan versus some other country? I pastored a church in Black Mountain that had 50 retired ministers, 50, 50, and their spouses, and 45 retired missionaries. And there was one couple in that church named McCall, no relation to me. So I began to sense that God was calling me to world mission. So I asked the McCalls if I could pray with them. So for 1 year, I went to their house every Tuesday morning at 7 for breakfast and prayer. They had served in Taiwan. In their house, we drank Taiwan tea out of Taiwan cups. They had a boat from Lanyu, from Orchid Island. Their house was like a Taiwan museum. They didn't push Taiwan. They just prayed with me about world mission. But after a year, I think God used their house and them to get me to Taiwan. And I've always loved Asia. And I think looking back, my personality and Taiwan personality seem to fit well. God knew. You know, Japanese are much more interior. And I'm not interior. And Koreans are a little more aggressive. And I'm not real aggressive. But it just fits. I just love the Taiwanese. So God knew what God was doing by sending me to Taiwan.
Did you speak Mandarin when you got there?
No, I did not speak Mandarin when I got there. I had 2 years of language study. And Taiwanese teachers are not known for, how would you say it? They're very strict. So they like to scold you. At least my teachers did. Ma, 他们都骂我. So if I got the tone wrong, she'd say, 不对, not correct. So one day I said, teacher, your scolding is making me nervous. It's not helping me learn. And she said, I'm not scolding you. So anyway, it was